Thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and check out my Instagram for cool science and not science stuff. And a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon for your contributions to my channel. Welcome back to Catalyst University. My name is Kevin Tokoff. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos and notifications. In this video, we're going to be discussing the Thomas test. So first, I'll show you how you actually set up the Thomas test for the patient. That's the easy part. It's a very simple test for the setup, but then all the intricacies come from the interpretation. And the interpretation allows you to figure out where muscle tightness is in the lower extremity. So let's first take a look at how you set up this specific test. So to begin the Thomas test, we have the patient sit at the edge of the table. Now this patient is seated pretty far over the edge of the table. That's actually okay, and that's actually good here, because we really want the edge of the table to be about halfway down the length of the patient's thighs right here, as you can see. Okay, so that's our start position. And then somehow we need to get the patient into this position, as you're going to see right here. So the patient is on her back, hips are flexed, knees are flexed, and she's got her hands or arms wrapped around her legs, as you can see right there, both legs initially. Now, how exactly you get the patient into this position is just really dependent on practitioner/patient preference, but this is where you need to get the patient. From here, you're going to see that she's going to keep holding one of her legs, but then let the other leg dangle down over the edge of the table, as you can see right here. So you can see she's still holding onto her right leg, but then the left lower extremity is allowed to do what it would normally do if you basically let it go. In this case, her left lower extremity is the test leg. Okay, so the right leg is not being tested here, only the left leg. And then pretty much everything else is just pure observation. Now what you see here on the bottom left in this diagram is what you should see in a normal person that has no muscular tightness in that lower extremity. So you can see right here that the thigh is in contact with the table. That's what we want to see. And then the lower leg right here is pretty much close to vertical to the ground. Really, we want it to be about exactly perpendicular to the ground, or maybe 10 degrees off. But as long as it looks something like this, that is normal. The first deviation we're going to see is where, when we release that lower extremity, the thigh does not come down to the table. You'll notice here that the thigh is about 10 to 20 degrees off of the table, so it doesn't come down. And this lower leg is still vertical, so that's what we want to see for the lower leg. When you see a situation like this, that indicates tightness of the iliopsoas, which is composed of the psoas major and iliacus. Remember that the iliopsoas is a one-joint muscle. Rectus femoris and some of these others are two-joint muscles, but the iliopsoas is a one-joint muscle. So whenever you have the thigh not coming down to the table, that's indicative of tightness of the one-joint muscles, which in this case are iliopsoas. Now the second deviation is very similar, except in this case, notice not only does the thigh not come down to the table, but the lower leg actually sticks out pretty far from the vertical, as you can see right here. Now this can mean one of two things. This can mean tightness of the one-joint muscles, or it can mean tightness of the two-joint muscles, or both. And so to kind of tease that out, what you want to do as the practitioner is you want to take the knee and manually or passively put it into full extension, as you see right here. So the knee's extended up here, knee's extended down here. But when you extend the knee, one of two things will likely happen. So if we look at the top case over here, when the practitioner extends the knee, you'll notice that the thigh does not come down to the table. So anytime the thigh doesn't come down to the table, we know that the iliopsoas, our one-joint muscle, is tight. However, that doesn't necessarily rule out a tight rectus femoris or tight quads. So it could be both of these, but it is definitely, at the very least, tight iliopsoas. Okay? If we wanted to determine whether or not the rectus femoris or quads were tight, we could always perform an additional test like the Eli test. Now down here, this is the other case where we passively or manually extend the patient's knee, but then when we do that, the thigh automatically comes back to the table. Because the thigh comes to the table, we know it is not tightness of that iliopsoas, it's going to be tightness of the rectus femoris, or really the quads as a whole. And we could, again, confirm that with other special tests like Eli's test. All right? Now what if we see a situation like this? So we release the lower extremity, thigh comes down to the table. Well, that automatically tells us that iliopsoas is not tight. But we see this situation where the lower leg is extended pretty far out away from vertical. So this is telling us that at the very least the rectus femoris, but it could be the quads as a whole, are really keeping this knee more extended and preventing this lower leg from coming back down close to vertical. So when you see this, this is tight rectus femoris and or quads. Now the third case we could see here is where we have hip abduction. So what we're looking at here is from the top. So we're looking at the belly side of the patient since they're on their back. The left leg over here has been omitted, but right here in the right lower extremity, we see that the hip joint is abducted. Okay? Now, this theoretically could be tight gluteus medius and minimus, although the more common thing that we're going to see is that this means we have a tight tensor fascia lata, or TFL. Now you'll notice here I have iliotibial band with that because the TFL is the muscular part that pulls on the IT band and can actually yield some of this abduction that we see. However, we don't want to really think about this in terms of the IT band because never in a million years are you going to be able to loosen the IT band. IT band is really, 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 really strong. You are never going to loosen this up. Okay? The only thing you can loosen is the pull on the IT band, which is through the tensor fascia lata, or TFL. Okay? So when you see this abduction right here, when the leg comes down, that's indicative of a tight TFL. Now the last thing we're going to look at are contributions by the hamstrings and the gastrocnemius. So we let the lower extremity come down like this. Here's the thigh, and then here's the lower leg, and then here's the foot. Okay, so we're looking at it really from a caudal point of view. Right? So this line right here on the lower leg, this is really meant to indicate the midline of the tibia, or we can think of it as the anterior crest of the tibia. And normally it's going to be pretty close to the midline of the lower leg. And for most individuals, the foot will be a tad externally rotated relative to neutral. Okay, some people it might be neutral, some people might be a little bit externally rotated, but normally it's going to be around this position. Okay? So what happens if we lower that leg and we notice that not only is the foot a little bit rotated inwards, but we palpate that anterior tibial crest and it appears to be more medially facing. This indicates that we've got excessive internal rotation. Now, this could theoretically be caused by tensor fascia lata. However, tensor fascia lata is most likely to cause excessive abduction at the hip. The three most common culprits for excessive internal rotation here are going to be the semitendinosus and semimembranosus, which are two hamstring muscles, and then the medial head of the gastrocnemius. Those are going to cause excessive internal rotation. The opposite can also be true. If the foot is visibly externally rotated excessively and you palpate this anterior tibial crest and it appears to be more laterally facing, we know we have excessive external rotation. And the two most likely culprits of this are the lateral hamstring, which is the biceps femoris, but also the lateral head of gastrocnemius. So hopefully this video gave you a good understanding of how you perform the Thomas test and then the keys to the interpretation of the Thomas test. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos and notifications. Thank you.